Hey guys, tonight we begin with everyday life in ancient Rome, from dawn to dusk. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, because tonight we step together into the world of ancient Rome. You wake in a small Roman house, a simple place of plastered walls and a floor that keeps last night's cool still clinging to the stone. The first light has not yet spilled fully into the atrium. It hangs like pale linen across the open square of the compluvium, that cutout in the roof where the morning sky peers in. A sliver of day rests on the water in the impluvium basin, a shallow mirror tremoring with the faintest ripple. Your blanket is a coarse wool, warm from the nest of your sleep, rough enough to remind you of its weave when it brushes your skin. You sit up, and the air carries the damp mineral scent of water and the faint sweetness of olive oil from a lamp that has just gone out. The wick is dark, curled like a sleeping creature. From somewhere beyond the doorway, a cartwheel rattles, then hushes, then rattles again. A mule huffs, leather tack creaking, iron shoe tapping a loose stone. The city is waking, piece by piece, like a theater stage lit from the edges. You step into the atrium, where the first light is turning the water's surface from slate to silver. The sky in the compluvium is pale blue, not yet warmed by the sun's gold. A swallow skims across that square of sky and is gone. Morning has not quite pressed its hand to the city, but you feel the pulse begin. In the small room off the atrium, a basket of yesterday's bread waits. Firm crust, a little stale, ready to be dipped and woken. On a low table sits a bowl of olives, wrinkled and glossy, and a clay cup with diluted wine. A finger's width of red folded into water from the public fountain. A thread of color blooming in clear. You take the bread. It cracks softly in your hand. You dip it in the wine, a touch of tart grape and the mineral whisper of the aqueduct's water. The bread drinks, softens. When you bite, the flavor is plain and steady, like a footfall on a familiar road. A smear of honey waits in a small jar, wildflower sweetness with a breath of time that clings to the hills beyond the walls. You taste it and feel that warm gold spread across your tongue. A fig, split and dark at the center, offers itself. Seeds that crunch lightly, a secret of summer in the early day. Your fingers shine with olive oil from a few preserved fruits. You wipe them on a linen cloth, and the fabric is cool and a little damp from the basin. Outside, the first vendor's calls float down the alleyways like birdsong. A woman calling for fresh greens, a man with dates, another with fish wrapped in damp reeds. The city's hunger is gathering into sound. You finish the morning meal, antaculum, modest and clean, and tie your sandals. The leather laces wind around your ankles, snug but forgiving, soles embracing the memory of yesterday's steps. You lift the bar from the door and step into the morning. The alley is narrow, framed by stucco walls with pockets of exposed brick, where rain has licked away the plaster. Fresh chalk marks on the stone from children's games are smudged by dew. You can smell damp dust and the faint, agreeable bitterness of olive pomace from a neighbor's kitchen. As you walk, voices unfurl, neighbors greeting one another, doorways exhaling the warm breath of sleep-woken rooms. A boy runs past, carrying a basket with steaming bread. The aroma overtakes him like a cloak. Yeast, browned crust, and a hint of smoke from the oven's embers. At the corner, a public fountain murmurs. The lion's head spout pours constantly, a thin, steady ribbon of water into a stone basin worn soft at its lip by thousands of touches. You stop and rinse your hands. The water is cool, carrying that clean, high scent of the aqueduct. Mountain springs arriving in the city like a promise kept. Overhead, laundry lines tremble with linen. A breeze lifts the fabric so that it breathes in slow, pale waves. The street widens, and the city begins to reveal its theaters of daily life. A baker's shop door yawns open, and the heat from the oven brushes your face. Flour and embers, ash and sweet crust. Loaves stack like small suns behind the counter, scored in patterns that please the eye and guide the hand. Across the way, a fuller's shop sends out its sharp notes of lye and clay and labor. Wool garments, soaked and trodden, hang to dry, the colors bright in the angled sun. A man with red-stained hands steps out, smiles, bows his head, and returns to the steam. Farther along, the metallic heartbeat of the city begins. A blacksmith's hammer ringing on iron, 3 blows, then a pause, 3 again. Sparks sputter, and the smell of hot metal and charcoal briefly lingers in your nostrils. This is the hour of beginnings, of lists, of baskets, of errands remembered aloud. This is the Roman day putting on its sandals. You reach the market streets where stalls unfold like petals, each one a small stage set with color and texture. At a fruit seller's table, pyramids of pears lean into light, their skins freckled and fragrant. Grapes hang in dusty clusters, the bloom on their skins like a breath you could fog away. Figs, split and glistening, show hearts the color of wine. You touch a pomegranate. Its weight suggests mysteries enclosed. The rattle of seeds, the crisp snap of the rind. The vendor nods, cuts it for you with a neat motion, and the fragrance lifts, tart and floral. You taste a few seeds. They pop coolly beneath your teeth, a jeweled rain. At a nearby stall, greens shine with morning moisture. Rocket, lettuce, herbs still humming with the garden. The seller rubs a rosemary sprig between his fingers so the scent rises. Pine and sun and the memory of hills. Fish arrive, wrapped in leaves, carried from the river and the sea in damp baskets. You pass a stand where small anchovies glint like scattered coins. Larger fish rest on beds of wet reeds, eyes clear, gills a blush of red. The air is briny and clean, a reminder of the vast, breathing water beyond the walls. A spice seller's corner is a swirl of perfume. Pepper's warm tickle, coriander's citrus hush, cumin's low hum. Terracotta jars hold their powders like quiet fire. You lift a pinch to your nose. The scent climbs and lingers, a soft bell in the mind. You hear the soft clack of ceramic cups as a woman measures out pulses and grains. Lentils sliding like tiny beads, wheat with its faint aroma of fields, barley with its earthy calm. At a stand draped with woven goods, a woman runs her hand over folded cloth, coarse wool for working days, a smoother weave for feast days, linen edged in simple blue. Her fingertips know the language of thread, honesty in one cloth, promise in another. You move with the crowd as it breathes and flows, the market's tide gentle and familiar. Children coo at a cage of songbirds, their notes bright as the morning itself. A storyteller, voice low and lilting, leans into a small circle of faces, recounting a hero's cleverness over a cleverer fox. Laughter ripples outward like a drop pebbles rings. You buy a small wedge of cheese, crumbly and clean, and a handful of dates glossy as lacquer. You secure them in your basket. The vendor wraps them quickly, hands practiced and kind. A seller of warm poles, a humble porridge, hands clay bowls to early workers. The steam rises with a homey sigh. The smell is grain and salt and something green, maybe leek. You take a spoonful. It is simple. It is good. It sits in the chest, the way a steady friend might sit beside you. Quiet, comforting, present. A small shrine at the corner receives a thread of incense. The smoke twines like a vine and melts into the street sunlight. You pause there as you pass. Touch the stone lightly and feel it warm under your fingers. The city is a fabric of crafts, each strand crossing another, the weave tight and sure. You step into a workshop that smells of cedar shavings and linseed oil. Here, the carpenter hums a tune beneath his breath as he coaxes shape from wood. Curved chair legs, a door latch, a small box with a sliding lid. His plane sighs across the grain. Curls of wood fall like pale ribbons. Across the lane, a potter's wheel turns steady as a heartbeat. Wet clay unfurls under the potter's hands, lifted and thinned with a careful, practiced love. The slip shines, lilac gray, catching the light. He cuts a finished cup free with a taut thread. The air smells of wet earth and patience. In a back court, a woman dyes cloth. A vat simmers. She stirs and lifts a length of wool, and the color deepens as it breathes the air. Yellow, bright as straw, red like crushed petals. Her fingers are stained with stories. A scribe sits near an open door, reed pen whispering across a wax tablet. He pauses to warm his hands in a sunbeam, then writes again. From a rooftop, a tile maker calls down to his apprentice. Clay tiles, cured and sun-kissed, are stacked like loaves. The apprentice's hands are dusty, his smile bright. You listen to the music of work. Scrape, turn, knock, sigh, murmur, lift, set. Each sound is modest, but together they become a hymn to the day. By mid-morning, the light is round and confident. The air has warmed. Dust motes drift like lazy snowflakes in the beams falling between buildings. You make your way toward the public baths, a gift that Rome gives to itself daily. A place for warmth, for talk, for the simple, generous comfort of water. The facade rises with clean lines and calm intention. You pass beneath an arch and into the apoditerium, the changing room. Voices bounce softly from the plaster. Sandals scuff. Laughter treads lightly. An attendant nods and offers a small, labeled shelf. You slip off your sandals. The cool floor greets your soles with a shy kiss. In the palestra, the open exercise court, some stretch, some toss a leather ball, some walk slowly and talk with the sun leaning on their shoulders. You slow your breathing and feel your ribs lift and fall like oars. When you enter the tepidarium, warmth embraces you, a gentle cradle of heat. The air smells of clean water and a faint ghost of cedar from the benches. You sit, letting the warmth nest in your joints, the surface of your skin remembering rivers, rain, and tears. The caldarium is deeper heat, the kind that melts knots and quiets thoughts. Steam softens the edges of the room, and everything is close and kindly. You anoint your skin with a thin veil of olive oil that blooms with scent as it warms. An attendant passes with a strigil, and you borrow it, bronze curved like a crescent moon. You draw it gently along your arms, your legs, your neck, lifting oil and dust and yesterday's weariness in slow strokes. You rinse. Water slips away, and your skin is new. Then, the frigidarium, a pool bright as a cut jewel. You step down. The cool clutches for an instant, then welcomes, then sings in the blood. Your breath sharpens, becomes clear glass. You float for a quiet moment, weight leaving you entirely. You emerge. The world feels finely drawn, edges crisp, colors honest. In the dressing room, you towel your hair with linen, rough and kind. In a side room, a barber works with careful hands, trimming a fringe, scraping a cheek with a practiced touch, and oil's gentle glide. He hums. Someone tells a story about a fish that got away and grew larger each time it did. Laughter bottlings and pourings, never too loud, more like the clink of cups. You lace your sandals again. Your body feels both softened and awake, like clay just before it goes to the wheel. Outside, the sun has stepped higher, the sky deeper. You walk toward a small temple that watches a crossroads, its steps worn smooth by pious feet and everyday feet alike. The threshold cools your souls. Inside, the air is duskier and quiet. The scent of incense is present, but not pressing. resin and spice, wood smoke's memory, and a sweetness like dried fruit. A priest tends a small flame. You approach a shallow bowl. In your hand, a sprig of laurel feels waxy and alive. You place it there and think a wish, not shouted but breathed. Something for someone you love, something for safe returns, something for steady days. You notice details in the dim. The folds of a statue's garment carved to fall like water. The way the light from a high, narrow window paints a bright rectangle on the floor, just large enough for a cat to nap there. And in fact, a cat has chosen that patch and is asleep, perfectly content. You stand a moment near a bronze bell. You do not ring it, but you imagine its sound, round and kind, traveling over rooftops and washing the day in a soft circle. When you step back into the sun, the city greets you with a lifted face. The heat gathers. Shadows shorten. You return home by a route that offers slices of shade, where vines climb walls and potted herbs sit on window ledges like small green guardians. In the kitchen, the hearth wakes with low flame. The iron pan accepts oil with a quiet nod. You soften leeks until their sweetness opens. You crumble cheese that melts into a soft embrace. You stir in herbs that turn their pockets inside out and release their perfumes. Thyme, a little savory, a breath of mint. On the table, a clay plate receives olives, cheese. The last slice of your morning bread, toasted briefly and brushed with oil. You drizzle a little honey and crack a few peppercorns between your fingers. They bloom with scent. You sit. The bench is smooth from years of sitting. The world narrows to the comfort of the meal. Warm, simple, made with care. The taste is of the garden, the market, the hearth, and the hands that tended each step along the way. Afterward, you step into the atrium. The water in the impluvium has captured a triangle of blue, edged with light. You trail your fingers in it and feel the day cooling your skin from the inside. In the quiet hours after noon, the city softens. Carts slow. Voices hush. A breeze gathers from the direction of the river. You mend a tunic with small, confident stitches. The cloth yields and then accepts the thread. You think of all the small repairs that keep a life whole. A hem taken in, a handle tightened, a word spoken kindly at the right moment. You tidy the household shrine, wipe the shelf, straighten a small offering of flowers that has drooped in the heat. Refresh a bowl of fruit with 2 figs and a pear. Then you rest. You lie down on a couch. The cushion firm, the linen pillow cool. The city breathes around you. Distant clatter, softer now, like waves farther from shore. Your own breath lengthens. For a little while, you drift. Not asleep, not fully awake, rocking on the quiet sea of midday. You wake gently, refreshed as if the day had rinsed you again. The light has shifted. The angles are kinder. Children have spilled back into the lanes with chalk and pebbles and laughter. The smell of baking returns as the afternoon ovens warm. You step out again. The sky is brighter, cleaner after the nap of the city. Market stalls that rested at noon have opened their eyes again. On a corner, a musician plucks a lyre. The notes fall like pebbles into a clear pool, ringing, overlapping, softening. A few passers-by slow and let their afternoon be threaded with melody. At a stall, shaded by woven reeds, you sample a small cake scented with sesame and honey. Its crumb is tender. Its sesame crust is toasty and speaks of hearths and habit. You visit a friend's workshop. She weaves at a narrow loom, feet tapping a rhythm that's both work and music. The shuttle passes, the cloth grows. She shows you a border pattern of tiny leaves, a quiet triumph. You smile together. A bookseller has set out a few scrolls and wax tablets. The smell of papyrus and beeswax is like warm parchment in summer fields. You run your finger lightly over an inscription's neat grooves. Letters hold their shape, as if collected from straight paths and simple corners. A public notice is being posted. News of a festival. Promises of games. A list of debts resolved with thanks. People cluster to read. The crier's voice is gentle, reading aloud each item in a careful rhythm so that every ear can gather it like grain. From a balcony, someone waters potted laurel. Droplets fall and star the dust with dark blossoms. A dog turns 3 times and settles in a square of sunlight. The afternoon gathers itself for the turn toward evening, like a cloak laid smoothly before a journey. As the shadows grow long, the city leans toward companionship. In a modest courtyard, neighbors assemble for a small performance. A traveling pair, one with a flute, one with a bag of masks, sets a short play, comic and kind. The masks smile, frown, gape. The audience smiles wider. Children laugh at the exaggerated bows. Elders nod at familiar jokes about lazy cats and greedy geese. The flute trills and then soothes. Not far away, in a larger space, some gather for ludi, games and displays. Today they are simple. Acrobats flipping like swallows, wrestlers tumbling in dust soft as breadcrumbs, a storyteller whose voice is wined in pines, telling of travelers and small clevernesses. The crowd murmurs approval, hands clapping like brief rain. You walk by, unhurried, letting the sound of pleasure follow you like a gentle tide that licks at the ankles and then recedes. At a booth, cups are set for a game of knucklebones. The bones click softly, like tiny castanets, and someone laughs, not at winning, not at losing, but at the perfect fall of a throw. The sun now leans toward roofs and chimney pots. Light gilds the edges of tiles. Swallows scribble the sky with swift, cheerful lines. You buy a small clutch of herbs, a twist of garlic, and a wedge of soft cheese that holds the shape of the maker's hands. The herb seller tucks a sprig of bay into your basket as a gift. It smells like green promises. On the way home, you pass the fountain again. The lion's mouth still pours. A child offers a small wreath of weeds to the water and watches it spin. You smile and watch with them until the wreath's path slows and comes to rest. A tiny boat without a voyage, but also, somehow, a voyage completed. In your kitchen, the knife's blade shows a thin reflection of the window's late light. You slice garlic, its bite rises and softens in oil. You set chickpeas to warm, crush them with the back of a spoon, fold in herbs until the scent is like a garden at dusk. You grill a small fish with a sprinkle of salt and a squeeze of lemon saved for this hour. The skin crisps and sings as it meets the heat. A platter receives it with olives set like dark moons. Bread returns to the pan, toasting until its surface is mottled with warm color. You rub it with cut tomato and a touch of oil. A little cheese melts where the heat welcomes it. The table is simple, clean, and ready. A clay plate, a cup of watered wine tinted like a sunset seen through a silk veil, and a small bowl of dates waiting like kind words at the end of a letter. You eat slowly. The fish is delicate, sea-sweet. The bread is the story of the day, told back to you with butter and grain and heat. The herbs whisper of hills beyond the walls where the wind tugs at their small bodies and does not uproot them. When you finish, you sit in the quiet that follows a good meal. The quiet that is not emptiness but fullness settling, like a lake evening still after a day of wind. In the hour that follows supper, the city glows from within. Lamps are lit one by one, each a tiny sun poured from olive and flame. A neighbor stops by with a story about a cousin's new baby. The perfect curve of her ear, the grip of her fingers like a finch's tiny foot. You offer them a date. They accept. The sweetness is a shared language. Children hop across chalk squares, challenging each other softly. Never too loud, because the night is a friend arriving, and you do not rush friends. On a balcony, a mother combs her daughter's hair, untangling the day, smoothing it into a braid that will remember night's quiet. The comb clicks, the girl hums. Inside, you tidy the day from your rooms, fold the cloth, cover the jar, bank the hearth. You light a lamp. Its flame sits small, steady, like a person keeping a promise. You take out a wax tablet and stylus. You write a few lines about today. The taste of pomegranate, the cool of the frigidarium, the cat asleep in a rectangle of light. You press the stylus lightly and listen to the soft scratch that is like rain beginning. You think of people you love elsewhere in the city or farther beyond. At ports where ropes creak and gulls call. On farms where vines hold sunlight in clusters. On roads that tie places together like thread across a garment. You wish them a safe evening and a gentle dawn. At the shrine again, you place a small offering, a curl of bread's crust and a fig, soft as a sigh. You touch the cool edge of the niche and feel steadied. You step out to let the evening carry you for a little while. The air has learned from the river and from gardens. It moves softer now, kinder on the skin. Torches and lamps find each other across the streets like stars leaning closer. The sky is deepening, indigo where it meets the rooftops, with one early planet pricking its face with a patient light. On a corner, a poet recites to a small knot of listeners. The poem is mild and smiling, about a dog who befriends a baker and naps in the warm ash each evening. People laugh softly at familiar lines. The dog, as if on cue, passes by, tail a waving flag of contentment. You pass by a baker's door. The last batch of loaves rests, breathing out aromas that touch memory as much as hunger. Harvests, firesides, hands dusted white. At the fountain, the water's voice is a little lower now, as if it senses the city is ready for softer speech. You cup your hands and drink. The water is cool and bright, and you feel it fall like a ribbon through you. Two old friends sit on a bench, not speaking much, letting the day settle in their bodies like sand settling in a jar after it's been shaken. One says, "Good," and the other nods. It is enough. You turn for home as swallows trade the sky for bats. The first stars keep their posts. Back inside, the house is a small universe with its own constellation of familiar objects. The lamp, the table, the bowl, the cup, the blanket folded like a quiet hill. You wash your hands and face in a basin. The water at night smells a little like stone and a little like air that has held its breath. You dry with linen that is soft with use. You set the lamp where its glow will touch the edges of the room, but not push the night away. Shadows nest in corners like birds. You lay out tomorrow's tunic, smooth the belt, check the sandal's laces. Preparing is another kind of rest. It says to your body, you will not have to think of this later. You sit at the lararium one last time. You thank the day for its texture, clay and water, flour and oil, stone and shade, laughter and footsteps. You thank the day for the people who passed through it with you, some known, some not, all part of the same weaving. You pinch the lamp's wick a little smaller so the flame lowers its voice. You lie down. The bed is simple and sure, ropes tighten, mattress stuffed with reeds and wool that settle into the shape of your wrist. The blanket is a valley of warmth. The pillow is cool at first, then gathers your heat like a secret kept. Outside, the last noises of the day resolve into a few clear notes, and then into the hush that follows music. Somewhere, a door closes with the softness that comes from many closings. A cart creaks once more, and then not again. An owl writes a small note into the sky and lets it fade. You breathe. The breath is a tide that obeys a moon you carry inside. In and out. In and out. Images of the day drift back like small boats to a harbor. The first silver of light in the impluvium. The cool of the frigidarium. The pomegranate's jeweled burst. The cat in the square of sun. The fountain's everlasting ribbon. The soft, low voices of friends at dusk. Your body becomes heavier, not with burden, but with acceptance. This is the hour for yielding. Your hands are warm and still. Your feet remember the cool floor and smile. Your eyes know they are allowed to close. A breeze visits, lifts the corner of a curtain, moves across your face, barely touching, as if it were blessing. No words, only presence. Sleep comes like the evening river, unhurried, inevitable, carrying reflections of lamps and stars and the long, soft line of the bank. You drift. You are safe. You are home. Night holds the city. The lamp is out. The impluvium is a dark oval where tomorrow's dawn will arrive on silent feet. You float beneath sleep's surface, deeper, softer, with only one instruction left in the body. Rest.